For 3,000 years, the warship was a human machine, powered by oars, guided by muscle, and crewed by men who fought at arm's length. The ram, the oar, and fire were the only weapons available. Every empire that dominated the ancient world did so because it controlled the sea, and controlling the sea meant controlling the warship. The Greeks, the Romans, the Byzantines, each built fleets that determined which civilization survived and which was consumed. These are the ships that made the ancient and medieval world. Gunpowder arrived and changed everything. The Age of Sail produced warships of extraordinary beauty and terrifying power, floating fortresses of oak, rope, and bronze that carried hundreds of cannon and thousands of men across every ocean on Earth. For 3 centuries, from roughly 1500 to 1850, the nation that built the most ships and trained the best sailors determined the shape of the world. Spain, England, France, Portugal, empires were won and lost on the quality of their fleets. Steam killed sail in a single generation. Iron replaced wood. The Industrial Revolution handed navies engines, armor, and weapons that rendered every existing warship obsolete, sometimes within months of launch. A ship built in 1860 was already ancient by 1870. The race to build faster, harder, and heavier accelerated with terrifying momentum. Nations that had fought with wooden ships for centuries now scrambled to master iron, steel, and the explosive shell. In 1906, HMS Dreadnought launched and made every existing battleship on Earth obsolete in a single afternoon. What followed was the most intense naval arms race in history. Britain and Germany pouring national treasure into fleets of steel giants, each larger and more powerful than the last. That race ended not in a decisive battle, but in 4 years of attrition, mud, and a war that consumed the nations that built these ships. The interwar years produced the largest and most heavily armed battleships ever built: Hood, Bismarck, Yamato, Musashi. Steel and armor and firepower taken to their absolute limit. Naval architects competed to build ships of impossible scale. Most would never fire their main guns in anger at an enemy warship. The weapon that would make them all obsolete was already being built in the shipyards of America and Japan. December 7, 1941. Pearl Harbor. In a single morning, the age of the battleship ended. The aircraft carrier, a platform that projected air power hundreds of miles beyond the horizon, became the dominant weapon of the 20th century. Every major naval power measured itself in flight decks from that point forward. The ships in this section fought the battles that decided the Second World War, from the Coral Sea to Midway to the Philippine Sea. The Cold War turned naval power into a permanent, global competition measured in tonnage, megatons, and missile range. America built supercarriers of unprecedented scale, floating cities with nuclear reactors, and air wings capable of striking targets 1,000 miles inland. The Soviet Union answered with cruise missiles, submarines, and battle cruisers bristling with enough firepower to sink an entire battle group. Neither side ever fired directly at the other. Both built the most powerful naval forces in history, maintained at enormous cost, and hoped they would never be needed. The modern warship does not simply fight. It thinks. Silicon, software, and sensors have replaced raw displacement as the decisive measure of naval power. A destroyer of 9,000 tons, equipped with the Aegis combat system, can track and engage hundreds of targets simultaneously, something no fleet of any size could accomplish 50 years ago. Stealth geometry, drone swarms, electromagnetic weapons, and satellite-linked networks have transformed naval warfare more thoroughly in 30 years than the previous century. Of steam and steel managed in 100. Beneath the surface, hidden from satellites and aircraft, the nuclear submarine remains the ultimate expression of naval power. It carries enough firepower to end civilizations. And it patrols in silence, hoping it never has to use any of it. The most advanced surface warships that close this list are already being built in the shipyards of America, Japan, or China. The newest warship on this list was launched in 2024. The next ones are already on the drawing board.